I have an assignment due pretty soon for my desktop publishing class. Let's open up Adobe InDesign and, well, check out this document. Uh, oh. Let's use a virtual machine. Oh boy, Adobe just can't stay out of my crosshair, can it? No. So, here's a gripe I have about Adobe. Let's take a look at InDesign. Adobe InDesign does not support newer files if you're using an old version. You might be wondering, well, why is this a problem? Back in the day, I paid for Adobe Creative Suite 6. Adobe Creative Suite 6 costed a pretty penny, roughly around $400. Anyways, so Adobe Creative Suite 6, has the tools, and it has the means of, putting together things like a PDF or a PNG. It has all of that. The only problem is that you can't open up files in newer versions of the same software, even if it's one version off. The only two that I think do this are Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign. Adobe Photoshop doesn't do this. Why is this a problem? Actually, I know why this is a problem. It's called piracy protection. Piracy protection makes sure that you are subscribed to the newest version of any Adobe software. The major problem with that is that you then gatekeep people who have owned your previous products. So what exactly does this mean for the consumer, aka people who have spent hundreds of dollars on previous versions? It means, eat shit, go fuck yourself, ha ha ha, you dumbass moron. That's what it means. Let's take a look at the Creative Suite page on Wikipedia, and I quote,
"Customers must pay a subscription fee, and if they stop paying, they will lose access to the proprietary file formats, which are not backward compatible with the Creative Suite." Adobe admitted that this is a valid concern. Individual subscribers must have an internet connection to download the software and to use the 2 GB of provided storage space, or the additionally purchased 20 GB, and must validate the license monthly.
Adobe has said this is a valid concern. So basically what Adobe said was this: you can complain all you want, we're not gonna listen. And why would they? They're a multi-billion-dollar company. So why is there no backwards compatibility? Well, piracy protection. Adobe also just really wants the money. Adobe doesn't give a single fuck about its customers, let's be honest. If they did, well, they would listen to the great majority of people's complaints. So I actually have a friend of mine who's very, very, very adamant about not using a single Adobe program, even if it's an older version. Granted, this friend of mine formed an opinion off of a 2-minute video on Twitter, and I'm not even trying to shit-talk my friend for getting that sort of opinion off of Twitter. It's sad that you can actually summarize how bad software is within the confines of a small video like that. Not only that, but because of this dumbass subscription model, it gatekeeps creativity behind a paywall. Think about how absurd and how dystopian that actually sounds. Art is now only for the people who can afford to make it. Gross. If anything, I would recommend what my boyfriend uses. He uses Krita. Krita is basically Photoshop, but dialed back really far down. And GIMP, the sad thing about GIMP is that you can't even make a circle, an actual hollowed circle, without trying to match up multiple points using really bad elliptical tools. Trust me, I've tried to use GIMP for 7 years. It is bad. And this actually proves my point here. You want to see the kind of custom thumbnails I used to have on my channel before I privated all the content? Yeah, this doesn't look good. Neither does this. And this definitely doesn't look good. And you want to know what? All of these were made with GIMP. All of these. Look, Adobe alternatives are not that good. Except for maybe Krita. Krita actually looks like it's pretty alright. Really, there's not that many out there. The thing is that, like I said in my previous video, Adobe kind of found a way to monopolize, and that sucks for anybody who is a graphic designer. Because now they're stuck with using a kinda garbage SaaS model? I mean, look at Photoshop. I mentioned that it was around 20 bucks for Photoshop and Lightroom. It's just $10 a month for Photoshop. If you have that for a year, that's around 120 bucks. Like I said, you could get Adobe Creative Suite 6 for around 400, and it didn't just have Photoshop. Alright, so we're done with that. What's the next thing we're going to talk about? The death of Macromedia and Flash. This is specifically for the old cats of the digital media industry. Back in 1992, a company by the name of Macromedia was founded. It was supposed to be a competitor, or, well, actually a rival, to Adobe. The funny thing is that in 2005, Macromedia was actually purchased by Adobe and became a subsidiary for a while. It then became a full-blown studio meant for Adobe software. Macromedia wasn't necessarily the best company either, but they were definitely better than Adobe was now. What you are seeing right now is an entire list of old Macromedia products. And this is what that entire roster looked like after Adobe purchased Macromedia in 2005. And now, this is what we're left with in 2021. Macromedia's legacy is long gone. The original soul of everything that Macromedia did has basically been thrown in the trash. Like I said, we only have 5 things left. And one of them isn't even an Adobe product anymore. And really, people are questioning why we even have things like Cold Fusion and RoboHelp. So in the end, we might just have Dreamweaver and Kinect. And hell, there are even people who don't even want Dreamweaver around anymore. All I'm saying is that Adobe crushed the original soul that Macromedia had. And I think that's a perfectly good analogy for a soul-crushing multimedia software company. Another thing I want to touch up on is the random discontinuation of apps that people didn't ask to be discontinued. Look, we all obviously already know about Flash, and we did just get finished talking about Macromedia and the fact that there's only 5 of their programs even close to existing right now. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Let's take a look at Adobe Muse. Adobe Muse was an offline website application, and basically it allowed you to create websites while not being connected to the internet, and you didn't have to deal with HTML. Why they decided to gut this, I don't know. But it's gone. And from what I understand, Muse users are very disappointed about that because, let's be honest, going from Muse to Dreamweaver, that's gotta hurt. This by itself is a problem because Adobe Muse was actually pretty popular from what I understand. Like I said, its discontinuation is rather odd. Imagine not having any input whether or not a program you used was just immediately going to die, and you weren't told until the last minute. Adobe pulls this shit all the time. the last thing for this filibuster that I have tonight is this. Adobe doesn't update their software that much. And when they do, it doesn't meaningfully change jack shit. I want you to take a look at this picture right here. This is Adobe InDesign CS6. Now I want you to take a look at this screenshot right here. Sure, some of the toolbars are a little bit different. What's the actual difference here? I can't tell, and from what I've, seen by using the software, nothing has meaningfully changed. The same can be said about Photoshop, even. Sure, it's easier to edit hair, but the core layout hasn't changed. In fact, it hasn't changed since, CS3? Back when it had a light theme? Gross. And for my last example, for now, I want to talk about Adobe Dreamweaver CS6 and Adobe Dreamweaver CC 2021. You see, there's not that much of a difference. The only major differences I can even think of is the way you switch to live, which I think is awful, because it kinda takes over the third button, the designer button. You have to switch between the two. You can't have them simultaneously. And even then, if you have the code pane up, or the split view, the code pane is underneath the preview instead of to the left of the preview. I'm not too sure what prompted this change, but whatever, I don't care. It's a code pane. It's also a tiny bit easier to use Adobe Dreamweaver 2020. Other than that, like I said, there is no significant difference. So why even bother having multiple versions if they don't really change anything, except for maybe perform a little bit better, or worse in Adobe's case? The only two that really change are Premiere and After Effects. As I mentioned earlier, SpeedGrade, which is a video color correcting app, ended up being absorbed into Adobe Premiere. Granted, working in SpeedGrade was painful, but it shouldn't have went, and I've already talked about that. But there are some new color correcting updates for Premiere. There are things like being able to switch between multiple cameras in a much more efficient way than it used to be. And After Effects has new ways of compositing. Well, it has new effects. And it also has, better support for Apple computers. So there are things like that, and those are genuine improvements, and those are the kinds of updates that I'm expecting in the rest of the software, or at least in things like Photoshop and Lightroom. But most of everything else that Adobe makes doesn't really need to exist. This concludes part 2 of my love-hate relationship with Adobe. Hopefully I don't need to make any more of these videos, but let me know what your gripes with Adobe are down in the comments. I'll see you in the next video. Techmo, out.